Just under 18 minutes until a battle for the Hoosier State. It's the Ball State Cardinals holding host to the Indiana State Sycamores. Always a good and tough matchup whenever these two go toe-to-toe. And we have the pleasure of bringing you pre-game coverage brought to you by TableX. My name's AJ Switek. This is Ryan Stojitz. And Ryan, I already alluded to it, but whenever there's an in-state rivalry like this, it means a little bit more.
Especially, AJ, for a state like Indiana that loves its basketball so much. These two teams not in the same conference, but still a bit of a rivalry. A lot of history in this series between these two squads. In the last 10 in this matchup are an even 5-5 split. So if that's any indication, should be a fun one and a close one this afternoon.
Plenty of history indeed. Recent history, there's a first-year head coach. His name is Matthew Graves, and he is currently sidelined with a third member of our crew, JJ Gregston.
Thanks, AJ. I'm here with head coach Matthew Graves. Coach, you have a young team, definitely a younger team than Ball State. How does that affect your preparation going into today's game?
Well, I think, again, it's more about us. We need to continue covering what we do well. And, if this was a game that was, in February, maybe we would spend, instead of 10% of our time on Ball State, we'd probably spend 25%. But right now, with this being such an early game in this season, our preparation is mainly on us.
And this is your first season as head coach, but not your first season at ISU. What does this rivalry mean to your team, but also to the state of Indiana?
No, I think it's great because it simulates what it's going to be like in conference play. This is a conference-level game, and to be in this environment, especially on the road for our young team, it's going to be a great learning experience.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, JJ. Awesome insight there from the first-year head coach, Ryan. What I really took away, he's treating this like a conference matchup. You understand the electricity going to be bouncing off of the walls of Worthen Arena this evening. You can tell the environment certainly a factor early and often for ISU as the visitor.
I think it's a perfect message from Coach Graves, just because, like you said, the atmosphere is going to be intense, simulating a conference game type atmosphere, but also just the quality of competition that you're facing in Ball State. So I think that's a great message from Coach Graves, a good early season test on the road for his team.
Well, Coach Graves' crew plays in the Missouri Valley Conference, a conference that has taken the step from focusing on football to the hardwood. It's been the right decision. Here's the scores around the MVC, highlighted by victories from Belmont, Illinois State, and the league's best in Bradley.
Yeah, Bradley, the favorites to win the Missouri Valley Conference, getting an impressive non-conference win against UTSA. Also, we had another Mid-American Conference versus Missouri Valley Conference contest earlier in Ohio versus Illinois State, and the Redbirds got that one. So that's the early standings in the little Missouri Valley Conference MAC rivalry of sorts.
Well, we'll get another look into that rivalry. It will be Ball State and Indiana State on the docket. We'll be back with more pregame coverage after a quick word from our sponsor.
This basketball pregame show is brought to you by TableX. TableX proudly supports the students of Ball State Sports Link.
The Missouri Valley Conference, always oh so competitive. We mentioned how good that Bradley team is. Indiana State currently mocked to finish 8th in the conference. But Ryan, a team I want to highlight, the Missouri State Racers. They've come out to the races here, pardon the pun. They've looked really good early in the season.
They have. You see a little bit of a changing of the guard in the MVC. Bradley, the overwhelming favorite after it was Drake that won the conference tournament a season ago. Indiana State lost in the Missouri Valley Conference Championship to Drake. So you see both those teams, good seasons last year, but falling a little bit in the preseason expectations for this upcoming season.
And you mentioned last season, right? Indiana State, that historic run all the way to the NIT tournament. So much of it due to the 5 starters who left. But Ryan, as we take a look at the ISU stats, it's clear a season ago this was the top dog in the MVC, really all the way until the end.
They were a force, especially on offense. Looking at the stats from last season, Indiana State was first in the Missouri Valley Conference in points per game, 3-point percentage, and field goal percentage. So yes, the team looks a lot different now than it did, say, 6 or 7 months ago, but the point stands. Last season was spectacular for Indiana State, made it to their conference tournament final, didn't win it, but then went on an incredible run in the NIT all the way to the championship of that tournament before the Sycamores fell to Seton Hall.
Well, Ryan, it's always fun to look at the past, especially when it's as glorious as what the Sycamores put together a year ago. But for the blue and white, it's about the present, right? There's so many new faces on this squad. My question to you, how do you separate that past success and really push to build forward in the 2024-2025 season?
Well, I think it's a balancing act, AJ. I think you have to, be proud of what you accomplished last season. Matthew Graves was on the staff last season, so he was a part of this program. He's familiar with what it takes to win in college basketball and win going into March. But I think you also have to be realistic. You also have to understand, hey, this is a new team. With the reality of college sports, it's just there's going to be changes. You're going to have to battle through adversity, whether it's through changes in coaching, changes in players leaving with the transfer portal. But I think it's a balancing act of remembering last year, but also being realistic that that was a special team. And just the fact is this team looks a lot different from that one.
Yeah, that it does. The transfer portal, just such a big part of college sports nowadays. And we get a look at what Indiana State lost to the portal. A pair of players going to St. Louis to join the former head coach, and then 3 Power 5 conference transfers. Ryan, top to bottom, it really speaks measures to just how special and how talented this ISU team was a season ago.
It really does, and part of the reason that they lost some talent was because last year's head coach, Josh Schertz, who was at Indiana State from 2021 to 2024, now as the head coach at St. Louis, you see there, took a couple players with him. So again, coaching carousels, transfer portals, it's just the name of college sports these days. But Indiana State not alone in dealing with those struggles.
ISU lost their best big man in Robbie Avila. Ball State also lost a big-time big man in Bashir Jihad to Arizona State. But really, outside of him, what I want to talk about here, it's a completely new backcourt for the Cardinals, as the guard turnover really can't be overstated.
It really can't be. And you see a lot of players last season who were contributors for Ball State. You see them gone. And again, it's like Indiana State, where you have to understand that, hey, not the best offseason for us in terms of the portal, in terms of players that we lost, but still some players that came into each of these two schools that they're both excited about, and a chance to turn the page and build a new team, both on and off the court, trying to build that team chemistry and camaraderie in this early point of the season. That's what both Indiana State and Ball State are trying to do.
Partner, you hit the nail on the head, but let's segue from last season into the matter at hand. Ball State, fresh off of a big-time game against Dayton. You'll see here first, Fat Hill Sports Center #1 play. But Ryan, they started this contest with 8 consecutive minutes without a field goal, trailed by as much as 20. I think we're in agreement here. It was a valiant comeback effort.
It was. The start was not great. The Ball State Cardinals started 0 for 13 from the field against the Dayton Flyers earlier this week, but it got to as close as a 5-point game in the second half. So again, a loss is a loss, but still, when you go on the road and battle back in the second half against a team that was in March Madness last season, you can hold your heads up high if you're Ball State and hope to translate some of that positive momentum from the second half of the Dayton game into this afternoon's contest.
The Flyers are a constant force to be reckoned with in the A-10. Ryan, obviously, Coach Lewis, not the kind of coach to be happy with a loss in any situation, but I think deep down, whether he wants to show it or not, he has to be impressed with the fight and retaliation this group showed, specifically Fat Hill amidst his 25-point game.
And you look at the second half, Ball State outscored Dayton 43-36. So again, a loss is a loss, but I still think, like you said, maybe if he doesn't show it, because that's not really how Coach Lewis is sometimes, but a lot to be excited about. And just for that locker room internally for the players to think, hey, we went on the road and we gave a really good team all they could handle for a half. Now just got to put together a full 40 minutes.
That they do. Ryan, this is a Ball State team that's kind of teeter-tottered, right? It started with a Georgia State loss, then they beat a D3 opponent in Franklin College, now knocked off by the toughest team on their schedule to this point in Dayton. The 1-2 record, not going to tell the full story. It's really hard to get a grasp on what this team is going to bring this season, but I prompt you with this. Through 3 games, what has stood out to you amidst this Ball State new starting 5?
I think they're playing fast, and I think that they're a team that, again, the complete game hasn't been there, but when they're going, they're going. I think you're seeing bits and pieces of a few minutes here and there that show, wow, this team could be really dangerous, or there's special players. It's just back to what we were talking about with the Dayton game. Bright spots, but it ended up being too little too late. I think what this afternoon's game provides to the Ball State Cardinals is an opportunity to go against a quality opponent that you've lost to each of the last 2 seasons and put together a full 40 minutes.
Well, with a quality opponent like ISU, they're obviously going to have quality players. One that we want to highlight, Samaj Teal, has been lethal. Don't let the SIUE stats fool you, Ryan. He's been really good to start the campaign.
He has spent his first 2 seasons at Winston-Salem, last season at Presbyterian. And yeah, the SIUE stats not pretty, but in each of ISU's other 2 games this season, he scored 20-plus points. So really, he's proven to be an impact player early on for the Sycamores.
Well, Ball State has a player of their own that could score at all 3 levels. The 6'5", 185-pound junior, a first-year transfer from South Plains Junior College. Fat Hill has a tremendous story.
He does, and he's similar to Teal. He worked his way up through the ranks of college athletics. He spent his freshman year at Pearl River Community College, spent last season, his sophomore year, at South Plains Junior College, and now he's at the D1 level, and he is thriving. I mean, what, your 3rd game at the D1 level, Sports Center top 10 number 1? Are you kidding me? That is incredible for number 1 on the Ball State side.
Well, Coach Lewis has to be thrilled with what he's seen from his transfer. Looks like he found a gem in the portal. He's currently courtside with J.J. Gregston.
Thanks, AJ. I'm here with Ball State head coach Michael Lewis. Coach, you had a strong finish in your game against Dayton. How do you make sure that carries over to today and your guys play a full 40 minutes of basketball?
Well, it's a different opponent, but I really liked our effort level and how we executed the last 28 minutes of the game against Dayton. We got to be able to build off that type of effort, that type of execution, and that has to become our standard and much more consistent in how we operate.
And today is Hoops for ALS. What does this game and that cause mean to you?
I mean, it means a great deal because the impact that it's had on my family and our life. But this game is about the players. It's always about the players. I'm just happy that we're able to use our platform to raise some awareness and hopefully some funding for research to cure a terrible disease.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Just really special stuff from Coach Lewis. JJ, thank you for your time on the sidelines. Ryan, I really like what he said about how Ball State is using their platform to help bring awareness and support to ALS.
Absolutely. You love to see, athletic programs at any level using their platforms to help people in need, support a good cause. That's what Ball State's doing today. You love to see it from Coach Lewis and his team.
Well, the Cardinals in Sycamores under 6 minutes from tip. Ryan, Ball State enters as a 6.5-point favorite. Do you think they get it done on their home hardwood?
I think this is going to be a really fun game, a close game throughout. I think the home court advantage looms large in this one. I think Worthen Arena is going to be rocking, probably one of the biggest crowds that Worthen Arena will see this season. If I had to guess, I'm going to take the Ball State Cardinals as winners, and I'm going to say the final score is 81-74 in favor of the home squad.
Well, I'll hold you to that. We'll be back with halftime coverage. We'll check in with Ryan's prediction. But in the meantime, throughout the course of the game, you'll be joined by Dominic Liacani, Griffin Leonard, J.J. Gregston will continue to roam the sidelines. This has been the TableX Pregame Show. I'm AJ Switek. That was Ryan Stojitz. So long.